That take was wild. Bro, you out of your mind. Guess we're really doing this.
Oh, step in, tune up, let the sparks fly quick. Hot takes tossing like a fast break flick. They break down the chaos, call out the blaze. Every headline flipped in 100 ways. Pushes glance wrong when the pressure gets thick. Shots get fired, who's right, take your pick. Lamps turn loud, tension gets loud too. Nobody better get down there seeing this through. Party on this rupture, say what you feel. Party on this rupture, shots to conceal. Party on this rupture, true is for real. Every week, every day, they spin that wheel.
This is part in the disruption.
All right, we are live. So welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Pardon the Disruption. Potentially the season finale here as we wind down season 34 and get ready for what comes after in the draft season and all that. So for today, I'm joined by Andy and Drew. If we have any guests coming down the line later this episode, then I'll be sure to introduce them as well. For our main topics today, we'll be running down some of the CFP action and the remaining 2 games that we have left. Any other bowl games that have caught our eye, either interesting results, great games, or something that we're anticipating that hasn't been played yet. Do a brief rundown of some of the draft thoughts that we have, maybe some rumors circulating, nothing too crazy, but just something to give the listeners something to chew on while they wait for the actual draft to drop. And then talking about some of the results from Andy's rules poll, if there's anything that we really feel strongly about and want to stand firm on, just to have an open, candid dialogue about some of those results. So without further ado, we are going to get into some of this CFP talk. And what I wanted to lead off with is there's only 2 games left in the CFP. Things have moved quite fast. There's 3 teams remaining: Alabama, Ohio State, and Rutgers. Pretty simple question. Who do you think is going to come out on top and why? Let's lead off with Andy. Take it away.
I'm still gonna stick with Ohio State, the favorite. I don't know. Obviously, MC's rolling over there, but he's got to go to Ohio State still. And D. Kennedy won it last year, so I don't know. It's hard for me to go anywhere else other than that. Rutgers easily could win again, but winning at Ohio State's tough. We'll see what happens though.
Yeah, no doubt. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with Andy. When we were on Drunk on Down, the first episode way back when, I had picked D. Kennedy to go back to back. I know he had that slip up there versus Rutgers, but just in general, I mean, by and large, he's stared down all the competition and hasn't really flinched. So obviously, you had mentioned Marion County playing pretty well right now. I don't know what the matchup will be, but my prediction will be Ohio State, Alabama, and that'll be a doozy. But I do think Ohio State ultimately ends up going back to back. Personally, I just think that there's too much on that team, weapons wise. I don't know. I know somebody had brought up his insult in the chat. I haven't been too active today, busy at work, but apparently there's a ratings update and badge changes and everything. So I suppose that could play a factor here, but I think it will hold status quo from my initial thoughts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially because for the past few seasons, right, I feel like the league has been pretty much dominated by Bucknut and Kennedy. Bucknut's out of the picture, so who does that leave us? Just to give us some discussion to have, I actually don't have Ohio State beating Rutgers. I have Rutgers over Alabama in the championship, and I do have the receipts from before the CFP started to prove it. So I've gotten a couple of games wrong here and there, but overall, I'm still alive with the correct champion prediction. Um, I think this year's CFP has really emphasized the user abilities of some of these coaches and really shown the importance of being able to think about the type of football you're playing and what your opponent's playing and how you're going to execute on drives, especially in a road environment. We saw Roke handle that in the swamp against Florida in a big upset against Jiggy. Arkansas controlled the game all 4 quarters at Utah, and obviously we saw Rutgers play on the road twice now in the CFP against two rather juggernaut squads with Oregon and Notre Dame. All of these guys have incredible user capabilities. None of them felt phased by the overwhelming difference between their squad's ratings and their opponents, nor did the home field advantage really get to them. So to me, that just tells me that the player with the best user ability is going to be the one left standing at the end of the season. Personally, in my eyes, given the circumstances and the context of the team that he's playing with and some of the scores that he has put up and the games that he has remained competitive in, out of the 3 remaining teams, I think that belongs to MJ and Rutgers. Beating both Ohio State and Alabama on the road is going to be an incredibly daunting task, but given his past 2 wins have been against squads with equally as strong players on them, I feel like, and also in very tough places to play, it's not out of the question. We just saw him put up 35 points in 1 quarter against Notre Dame. I didn't even know you could do that given how short quarters are in this game. We got 7 minutes to play a quarter, and he puts up 5 touchdowns. So that just boggles my mind to have an offense so high functioning despite the overall player ratings. So I fully expect him to continue bringing that firepower to Ohio State, who he will be squaring off with for the 3rd time this season. And both results have been really competitive and solid. The first one was a road game at Ohio State. I believe that one was about a 10-point margin, maybe 11. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 42-31 Rutgers. Then they met again in the championship game, also at Ohio State. That one came down to a difference of a field goal. So this will be their 3rd meeting and the 3rd game at Ohio State, which is unfortunate for Rutgers to not have an opportunity to use their home field advantage in any of their meetings, but it's proven to not be the biggest factor, both in the CFP itself and in the in-season rivalry we've seen with Rutgers and Ohio State. So, where I think their offense will be immensely challenged is against Alabama. This is kind of one of those unstoppable force versus immovable object type of games. You have the number 2 defense in the entire country going up against the number 1 offense in the country by Massey rating. I'm sure you can find some other stats to argue that X or Y team might be slightly better, but at least from this objective measurement, these 2 teams know exactly what they're doing on their favorite side of the ball, and I am all for it. I'm a huge fan of an underdog story, so I personally want to side just with Rutgers. I know a handful of people would probably be a little bit salty about Kemp taking home the trophy. I just think that would be kind of funny to see the reaction of. So I'm going to ride with Rutgers to be the last one standing here, actually.
Oh, I think a big thing here too is not just the user skill, but uh, what somebody may or may not be willing to put into it, depending on what it matters here. I mean, they've played twice, and I think they have a pretty good idea of what each other does, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
somebody's going to have to make an adjustment here. Who's it going to be? I mean, we kind of know MJ Kemp's game, D Kennedy too, but he shows a little bit more balance in my opinion. Whereas we kind of have an idea of exactly what MJ is going to do. So does D Kennedy go back and spot the formations in his beloved hot routes? Can he
Mm-hmm.
sniff that shit out quick? I mean, these things matter. MJ Kemp can score with anybody here, so who can come up with a stop? Like that's the crazy thing about this game. We've seen some tight contests, right? Like Roke, good on defense. Some of these games feature lot of stops and punts, change of possessions. Other games feature change of possessions because we're scoring every 10 seconds. So you got to feel like this is probably one of those who can score last kind of games, but maybe it can be a who can stop who first. And just like tennis, who can break serve? Because if somebody can break serve on the other, uh, that would start there, right? To me, those are the keys of the game. Who can break who first, and then what does that do, right? Because we know momentum plays into these games. It's kind of I'd be curious to your guys' opinion, but these games are two-half games in my opinion, just because we know how quickly things can change. So uh, whether that whole momentum thing is real or not, I know that there's discussion on that, but it sure seems like that, So I think that one is still, I mean, completely up in the air. As you said, you give a lot of reasons why MJ Kemp certainly could win. Uh, I mean, those two have played quite a few times now, and I don't know if they're evenly matched or off, but I think that record's pretty close. So probably one of the harder games to pick in the NDL all season, I'd say.
Yeah, 100% agree there. To the point of the game being two halves, I am no stranger to that. I can't hold a lead worth a damn. I can be up 14, 17, 21, and it's going to come down to the final possession at the end of the game. So, yeah, to your point, it probably will be just going back and forth the whole time and seeing who's the first one to break. I think if Kemp gives up, what was it, 4, 5, I think 4 special teams return touchdowns in a game again, I don't think it'll be as close of a game as his was with Oregon. So something's got to change on special teams to make sure that the ball is slowed down a bit and he can influence in any way he can the time of possession for Ohio State and not just give up free massive chunks of yardage or even touchdowns on special teams. Rock, I see you joined us. We're talking about just general CFP. Who do you think's gonna win? So if you have any thoughts, feel free to chime in.
Thank you, appreciate it. Sorry for being late.
Yeah, no problem.
Joys working in an office, but um, so I thought I heard. Did we say that Ohio State hosted both games at Rutgers? So I'm looking at the schedules, and it looks like Rutgers was at home week 13, at least according to the schedule. For what I don't know if that may holds any bearing. That's the game he won,
Oh,
and
okay.
then
Yeah,
I
you are
don't
right. You're
know.
right.
And it looks like he was also home via tiebreaker in that case for the championship game, which he lost. So this
Oh, they
one,
flip it. Okay, so this is the first win for
so
Ohio State then.
right. So that could be noteworthy for what that's worth. But then again,
Yeah.
he's already gone into he went into Penn State and beat Smitty. He went into Oregon, beat Shell. He's gone into Notre Dame and beaten Rain. So I don't know if that'll make much of a difference, but he has split technically both games at Rutgers. So could make a difference, could not potentially. But I agree with the special teams piece, especially because we all know how Kennedy won his national championship last year. So something to keep in mind, and definitely something to keep an eye out for. I think special teams will probably be the tipping point. It'll be a shootout more than likely. But I think if Kim can get it together on special teams, then um, he'll probably be going home in short order. That said, if I had to pick a winner overall, I think I'm going to lean Bama by a small margin. I feel like Marion County is ready to finally cash in those receipts he had from all those seasons ago, where he was talking about once he got a good team, he'd be there and he would be taking home the championship. And thus far, he has held up his end of the bargain and is there waiting to see his opponent. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go roll tide. As much as I hate to say that, uh, for this season.
It's interesting too. I'm just kind of looking the the seemingly contrasting styles, right? Like uh, these Big Ten guys, Ohio State, Oregon, Rutgers, they're all scoring 50 plus to win these games, right? And then you're
Mhm.
looking at some of these SEC scores, 35 to 13, 24 to 17, 35 to 28. I think it's interesting uh, how it seems. I shouldn't even say it seems. We kind of know the game, and obviously our playoff then are geared towards guys who can just put up points left and right. But then every season, there's at least one or two guys. Holme last season, despite not having won, but then Roke this season, somebody that's just flat out good at defense and can be functional enough with what the game allows you to do against these offenses to really kind of stifle some of these guys is actually pretty fucking impressive. I mean, 63 to 60. I guess that's kind of cool to watch, right? That's a lot of points. It's entertaining, but I've seen enough of these fucking shootouts. That's every game. Like, it's a little more interesting to me to sit down and watch these chess matches that go 24-17 and such. So, to that same point, like, I am interested because Alabama, obviously, uh, they're right up there near the top in a lot of defensive categories. Top 10 scoring defense, top 5 turnover defense. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a titanic matchup either way. But who comes out on top? The guys that can just score at will, or the guys that can score functionally and stop somebody from scoring. So that to me is the key of the game. Getting uh, two stops. I would say the first person in either one of the Ohio State, Rutgers, and then Alabama, whomever. The first person to get two stops would be my predicted winner. I know I've picked Ohio State, but if they go in and Rutgers takes a 14-point lead, I just don't know if they're coming back. So that's
Mm,
the game theory that I see playing out.
I know.
Yeah, one point that you kind of touched on was the defensive prowess of the SEC in the low scoring games there. I don't know if it was like a statistical fluke when I was just scrolling through some of the team stats and maybe it just gets calculated weirdly, but so many of the SEC teams are at the very top in terms of total yardage allowed on their defense. And I think that just speaks to how much different of a game those SEC teams are playing. I think that experience with holding down some really strong rosters as Alabama could probably influence the outcome of the national championship, whether that is Ohio State, whether that is Rutgers. So I think they do have a lot going for them. I think that'll definitely be an interesting chess match. Um, but yeah, beyond the CFP though, I'm curious, what games are you guys most looking forward to that have yet to be played, or if there are any games that have already been played that you guys want to shout out in particular that you just found interesting?
I can go.
I would go ahead.
Go ahead, Raka.
So, yeah, a couple of, well, I guess the one that already played, I heard it had a lot of internet issues. The one I was looking forward to was definitely CMU Fresno for G5 purposes. Obviously, Teddy's made a ton of noise in the Mountain West. He whooped me handily. I tried to keep it interesting in the Mountain West Championship, but yeah, well deserved on his part. I wish I could have seen that game, but I heard there were a lot of internet connection issues. As far as games that are have yet to be played, kind of looking at USC and Virginia Tech. I know VT Running Guns gotten it together as of late. I know he's had a lot of heartbreaking losses, so it's good to see him doing well with his team. We have a old school. Actually, that's kind of an old school versus new school because cruising is fairly new too. Another one of those: Georgia Tech versus Baylor. Two teams that were fairly popular picks to go to possibly make the CFP early on, especially with their schedules. It'd be good to see those two play styles face off against each other. And then the last one, Louisville and East Carolina. Looking forward to seeing that one with our. I love a good running back, Sylvan. Can't. What can I say? I want to see what you got.
I'm right there with you. Uh, Drew, do you want to go next?
Sure. Um, Games that have been played. Uh, I'm not going to call it a surprising result, but just one I would touch on. Tennessee beating Duke 49-14. I think a lot of people would agree, but uh, a locked-in Vegas is probably a top 10 coach in the league, right? So obviously another mid-regular season for him. A lot of things going on, busy-wise outside of the NDL. Probably not as locked in as he wants to be. But again, he's one of those guys where a result like this just continues to validate because Texan Knoll is not a slouch either, right? So, I mean, 49-14 is a pretty impressive result. So, uh, that one caught my eye just because it's not unexpected, but one of those things where you kind of want to see what Tennessee could do if Vegas is locked in and like rip roar and ready to go for an entire season, not kind of petering out because of life or maybe a loss here or there. But that's one that's been played. Ones that haven't been played. I was looking forward to Oklahoma, Penn State a little earlier. Obviously, two of those teams that were right on the cusp got left out of the playoff. So those two probably obviously looking to stamp their mark as superior of the two and who maybe should have been in the playoff. So that's an interesting one. I like Southern Miss versus Liberty. Big Red versus Jet. Uh, Again, just two G5 teams that had a great season. Neither one really entered the G5 CFP conversation when we were having those discussions at the end. Liberty a little bit, but they quickly left the conversation. But I think that will be a good game. Just be interesting to see which one of those two shows to be maybe the stronger coach. I don't know how those rosters stack up, but and then it was already mentioned, but one thing that I thought was interesting that I'll touch on: Georgia Tech and Baylor. Um, just again talking about how offense kind of rules the game and everything. And I remember in the live chat when we were, everybody was talking it out before the rankings release for the field. Uh, at one point, Jumper was talking about, the game and how it's geared to offense and scoring and how he kind of plays the game a little different, where he's willing and has no problem conceding scores because he's a guy that just believes the score can be tied. That's fine. If I've got the ball last, I'm going to score and win. And it's just very interesting. The one thing I thought was funny about it is I went and in my statistical sheets for tracking the CFP, average scoring margin is in there for me, and he had a 47-40 scoring margin. So it's just I thought that was hilarious just to see that he literally posted a result that lives true to his word that you can go ahead and score all you want, but I'm going to fucking score last. Give me the ball. So some things like that are interesting. Steamroller, he's a good player too. An old head Jumper kind of being obviously a newer guy since come back from season 29. So I think that'll be a fun matchup to watch as Iraka mentioned.
Andy, you want to share your thoughts?
My two that haven't been played yet were it's Oklahoma, Penn State. Yeah, like it's already been said, the two teams just barely got left out, and then the other one was your game, the Louisville ECU. Not that you were like on the cusp of the CFP by any means, but like that's kind of like the ECU's chance to play a big power team that had a pretty solid season and see what he can do.
I don't know, man. I think I was snubbed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you 8-4 in the ACC. It's kind of like
I did okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying like you were like 13, 14, 15, but that's like a chance to be like, hey, maybe I should have been in the CFP if you could come out and win that game. And if he loses, it's like that's why the G
needed to be won.
There's only one G5. That's why there's only one G5 team that gets in, because even the teams that aren't really on the bubble can still pretty easily smoke in the ratings difference. But the only one that got played that like I was like semi interested in was Texas and Wisconsin. And I didn't even get to watch it because I can't remember if I was busy or if it was an early game and I was at work or something. But that was the only one that's gotten played so far that wasn't a CFP game that I was like wanting to see, and I didn't see it.
Yeah, I think if I'm remembering right, I think that one was a snow game. Was Texas wearing all white for that?
It was a snow game. I'm trying to remember why I didn't tune in, unless there was something else going on, or I can't fully remember. But I remember I just couldn't tune in and found out after the fact.
Okay.
I just want to say too, like I know that so 6 feet. He after the CFP field is set, he stays up all goddamn night working on the bowl game. So shout out to him for being the guy that powers through and gets those out for us. But I know he works within the structure of the real bowl tie-ins in life and whatnot. And I just want to say, I mean, they've talked about it before in some of the college football podcasts about like a 13th game and matching up some of these other teams that aren't in the playoff la di da. When they talk about these, how we can change bowl season or improve it, make it more interesting. But for our league too, like I just say well done on these matchups. Obviously the records have to be there for them to kind of get matched up, but still, like BYU, Michigan State, Ryan Collins versus Metro D, two strong coaches. Swovine
Mhm.
versus Pirate Flag, Steamroller Jumper. What else you got? Mort, Smitty, obviously. Another one that I didn't mention: Oklahoma State, Temple, Finesse, and Hughes. That would be an interesting one. Like I enjoy these games because you get these matchups that were, if guys end up staying at a school for 3 years. You're going to get some repeat games, but you get a lot of these matchups where maybe these coaches haven't played before, and obviously not all teams are created equal, but it's just fun to see where these coaches stack up against one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the games that don't feel important, like if you're having like a down season, something that wasn't as successful as you'd hoped, I think just the spirit of the bowl games is what makes it so fun and entertaining. And to an extent, you can kind of relax a little bit in the sense that you don't have to worry about. Well, I guess in a sense it can still impact your performance and your draft position, but I feel like there's a lot less pressure than having to worry about where am I going to finish in the conference standings, how is this going to look on my resume or something. You
Mhm.
can just sit and enjoy the game and have some fun with your opponent. To that point, the game that I'm most looking forward to, and I think a couple of people have chimed in on it, is Penn State at Oklahoma in the Citrus Bowl. I know that both of those teams were sitting right on the bubble for the last CFP spot, and both had pretty reasonable arguments for getting in. I know Smitty with Penn State has been a little vocal at times about his placement relative to some other teams in the CFP. Specifically, I want to say he did call out Oklahoma not deserving to be ranked above him in the CFP conversation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when these two just get to leave it all out on the field. Both teams ended their regular seasons on very narrow losses against some really quality opponents that had a couple of plays just gone differently. It would leave us with a much different CFP field than we do right now. Um, Looking a little bit into Oklahoma's game plan and their offense, the overwhelming majority of their yards and points has come off their passing game with Mateer. So if Penn State wants to gain control of this game I believe this is in Oklahoma, their home stadium, it's going to need to happen by attacking and pressuring Mateer and forcing the Sooners to go off script a little bit and kind of relying on the run game. Looking back at some of Smitty's games this year, I think he's more than capable of stopping the pass and forcing his opponents to either switch to running the ball more than they would like or to continue on with passing and risking turnovers. Um, so I think if he can kind of control that, which I have some confidence that I think he could, uh, I will have Penn State taking this one. Not not too narrow, but also not an insane blowout or anything. I think both of these teams have played incredible seasons, and shout out to both of them. But I do think I have Penn State taking that one. It'll be really entertaining to watch, in my opinion.
Andy, I got a question.
Yeah.
Um, you're kind of one of the coaching score guys that has it on lockdown. A bowl game win versus just a bowl game appearance, that two extra points on a coach's score, is that going to be like point one or like point two? Do you know what that would equate to on a coach's score? I know it's going to be a tenth or two. It's not much, but you have a thought?
I mean, it honestly, sometimes it just doesn't matter, mainly because like you could fall in a range like there's not much in that area in terms of like where where there's score clumping kind of thing.
Okay.
But I mean, it definitely matters. Like every little
Yep.
win matters, but
Well, that's what I was just curious because, like, you
each
think. I mean,
each
I don't know all the
every two
scores,
points
but
you get, every point you get is 0.2 points.
okay,
So a
okay,
bowl win is 0.4.
okay. I mean, and so like that, and that was my point, right? Like, I mean, bowl games really do matter in a sense. Yeah, obviously not as much as the grand scheme picture, right? But I think top to bottom, it doesn't matter. And this is one of the fun things about the draft. And when we come out the backside of the draft, when we can kind of analyze it post all the selections, is what results from the season previous ended up having the most impact on the draft. And then so I think about bowl games, to be honest, because I know that it's not hard. It's not a secret, right? It can be publicly figured out easily if you wanted to go
Yeah,
do
like
it. And so I know some
I
of these
posted
scores
that.
are tight. Point
Yeah, like
two,
I
point
posted that
three.
one sheet a while ago that like you can go in and test any team you want to. Like that
Yep.
one that it's supposed to check your own coach score, but you can go in and check
Yeah.
like any team you want to.
So I mean, and that's the thing, though, right? Is like some of these games do matter because if a bowl game, which can get a bowl game win, can get you 2 more points, which on a coaching contract is point 0.4. I mean, especially if you're one of the top guys, right? If you're a top 10 pick, you probably have a pretty good idea of where you want to go, and so
Mhm.
winning these can really help. And same for the lower guys, though, too, right? Even 3 or 4 picks,
Sure.
we've saw it several times in the past. Like, oh my god, I had this team in this one pick, 2 picks before me, they were gone.
Yeah,
So like,
I mean that was me
I know,
last year.
yeah. I'm one of those guys. Like, I made a bowl game for the first time ever. I didn't win it. It doesn't bother me, but like, it's just funny because it does kind of feel like when the season winds down and it's the quote playoff or nothing mentality. Like there does seem to be some feel that, yeah, oh, okay, whatever, it's a bowl game, it's a throwaway.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like you can treat it that way if you want. Some guys may be actually buckling down and doubling down harder on trying to win that bowl game for
Yeah,
draft purposes. So I'm
like
I'm excited when we finish that draft to see who comes back out and then goes on public record and says, "Oh my
yeah,
God, my bowl game, I got fucked. Somebody picked this team right." Like I can't, dude. That's some of the most fun
like
stuff is seeing how all
I'm
that plays out.
not saying everything. But like I got my sheet up like my little prediction thing. Like there's one team that still has a bowl game left to go. They can go from pick 21 up to pick 17 if just by winning. I mean
Hmm.
Oh wow.
that's the difference between like like an okay team and a team that you could make a CFP run with. Like see who else here. There's a clump near the top. I got somebody with 105.8 points, and they could jump into third place if they win. They
Oh
can go
wow.
from seventh to third, basically. Like that's a huge. Like you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah,
wherever the clumps
huge.
are. And there's other places where 0.4 points means absolutely nothing. But
Yep.
there's certain spots where that could be, there could be like a three-way tie, and then you just vault yourself over the three-way tie, kind of
Yep.
thing.
Yeah, post mortem. That's going to be fun to talk about. I'm excited for that.
Perfect segue too, because the next topic that I actually wanted to talk about was the season 35 draft. So yeah, obviously we know that there are going to be some coaches certainly leaving their programs for greener pastures. Are there any particular coaches that you guys are watching and interested in seeing where they end up? And do you have any speculations on what you think a good fit for them would be? If you want to lead off, Andy, we can go down the list there.
Um, I'll be again the couple guys that are going to be pretty high are going to be Devin Rock. I forget how we decided to pronounce his name, but he, I mean Arkansas, and Mississippi State. There's a lot of good SEC teams that are going to be out there. So I'll be interested to see where they both go. Devin could be really interesting at a school like I don't know, like Georgia or A&M or something like that, where like just get the offense going crazy because he seems to do just crazy things to the offense. Other than that, I'm not quite sure. I don't really. I talk to people because I'm kind of near the top and I kind of want to know where people are going to go. Like, I don't want to say. I don't want to say who people are telling me they're going to get who they want without I want to put them on blast basically about saying who they're looking at. trying to think of anybody else further down. I don't really know.
That's pretty funny too, Andy. Do you think I know like I've seen it once or twice in the live chat. Some people are like, "Come on, man, who are you looking at? It doesn't matter." And then I think there's a much larger contingent of people that absolutely want to keep their draft intentions and information closer to the chest.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
For
to
me,
me,
I'll
this
always tell you it's very if you know anything about me, it's very obvious what I want.
yeah,
But the other than that, like at the top, if it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking to go wild style, where he took Texas Tech last year, then vaulted them? I don't know how many overalls they went up between games, and see who did really well in the portal and top up a lot, or set yourself up for a pick next year. Because Indiana looks great and all, but if you don't win 10 games, you're fired. Like there's with their new overall, there's no meeting that overall with if you don't win 10, 11 games with what their requirements going to be in order to keep. I mean, we established they're like a 93 overall. You need a 98 coach score to just to keep them. That's I don't know. Purdue might be their only rival though, so that might not be that bad rivals wise. But
I think you kind of got to break this down into like four groups almost, right? Like successful coaches who are going to stay, successful coaches who want to go to a different P4, successful coaches who want to go hit the G5 and try to really boost the score to go get the top of the G4 or P4. And then a guy that so just a specific name that I would come up for the fourth category is guys who historically are good but have had a down season. Like what are they doing? So D Kane would be somebody, right? Like he ended up taking Vandy and he ended 4-8. Um, but we know what he did when he had Georgia, right? Obviously, he didn't get over the hump and win a title, but he was there every single time. So I'm just like some of those guys, the guys that are historically good, and have faltered a little bit here. I'm interested to see how they approach trying to get back to the mountaintop. Um, Roke, Andy already brought up, but like, what's he gonna do? Because he's a Boston College fan. He's already been there, had success. Mississippi State. I forget who the other one was, but what's he gonna? I mean, if this man goes and takes a top 5 or 10 team in the game, I don't think you have anybody else to be the odds-on favorite for the season 35 Natty, in my opinion. Obviously, that's premature, but I'm very curious to see what he does if he continues this trend of mid teams and still has unbelievable success with them, or if he wants to go and shooters shoot, take whoever he can and just dominate the field. So that's I think this is why probably I mean you see it in the live chat, right? But like all kinds of guys are amped up and ready for the draft. You've seen several people say it's the live draft, how we did it last year. It's their favorite part of the league. So I think any draft talk is good because it's one of the I think it happens every season though, right? Like that is you never have more momentum for a season than you do coming right out of the draft, right? So even the build up into that is also kind of like you get that energy coming back up again, like the hitting this lull at the end of the season. So any draft talk, good, bad, or otherwise, is good in my book.
Yeah, and like you said, kind of to piggyback off what you were talking about there, Drew, is this is the last season before we switch versions. So this is kind of one of those drafts where you'll see folks gamble or they're trying to predict on who's going to be good next season. So yeah, obviously you have all those teams that are going to be good at the top, those SEC teams, and whatnot. But it's trying to predict because I think I saw in the chat someone was talking about trying to target James Madison because they'll probably be overrated like Boise was this year, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. For me, it was a bad thing. But looking at things like that and also being in the Mountain West and seeing what Tutty did, Tutty's going to have a fantastic draft pick. There's going to be a bunch of people that are probably going to want to come over to the Mountain West and beat up on us old folks to get a good draft pick for the new version next year. So I don't really have anyone or predictions necessarily, but I guess people I'm curious to see where they're going to go. Probably Big Red, Tutty for sure. I don't know if Glizzy's going to keep James Madison. I don't know if he's leaving because he had a
I'm
successful
almost
season.
positive he is. He's
Yeah, I don't.
he's a JMU alum. I know him in
Oh,
real
he's an
life.
alum. Okay, yeah, no, he's not.
That's the
Okay,
only reason why.
no
Yeah,
reason to leave. The team's
I know
good,
him in
and
the
you're
real
alum. Yeah,
world, and
no.
I'm like
Okay,
99% sure he's not going anywhere.
okay, cool. So, Let's see who else. I'm curious on where Mort's going to go. I know he wants Texas Tech. I don't know if Wilds is going to get fired necessarily. I know he had a down
I think
season, but
Wilds can keep him by like 0.1 with
Yeah,
a
it's
bank or
I was going
really
to
something
say
like that.
he's probably
close.
got his bank. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like he's got his bank. So I know I have to use my bank this year. So I'm not leaving Boise just yet. For anybody who wants that free ticket to a Mountain West championship, not leaving yet, fellas. Unless I'm
I'll
forced
be
out.
interested to see because somebody's going to have G5 hopes to do like a lot of damage in the G5, and then they're going to be
Mhm.
looking at pick 100, 105, or wherever it is that Kemp's going, and just hope that Kemp's G5 team that he's probably going to get is not in their conference.
Yep.
Like that, you got two spots open in your conference. You think you got this, this clear path with a good team and some users that you could beat, and all of a sudden potentially the natty winners might be following you in your conference.
And that's why I'm so overjoyed that the Mountain West is so popular because there shouldn't be any Mountain West teams that far down the draft. I was not looking forward to that. But let's see. I know Pirate Flag's not going anywhere. He's happy and ecstatic to have ECU. Let's see. Other successful teams. I don't know. Is Jumper going to leave? Is
RB.
he like Baylor? I feel like RB's content to stay with Wisconsin because I think he did his thing where he went and got a good team and then he kind of got.
He posted he was leaving in his little decision
Oh, he's
day
leaving
thing.
again?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
think
He
he
said
had a
he
good
was,
enough
but
season. He's
Yeah.
gonna go shop
I
a
mean,
better team.
he's gonna have a pretty high pick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So he's gonna throw his hat back in the ring again. That'll be fun to see where he goes. Let's see.
I got a question. You've been
Yes,
around a
sir.
long time. You would know, like, how, I mean, maybe it played different back then, but I'm just curious. So I'm curious how many guys, or if you guys, just what your feelings are from talking to other people. How many guys, like, who's playing the long game? Is my curiosity. Like, in terms of looking at the real world, like high school recruiting, things like this. I mean, like, Oklahoma State is a team that just improved drastically with a new quarterback, new running back, new coach. We don't know how that's going to play out really, but that's a team. I mean, one team that I have brought up to people before that is a potential sleeper long term if you're looking at a dynasty is a team like Houston.
Mhm.
They play in arguably one of the easier of the Power Four conferences. They right now, as far as I still know, they have a five-star QB named Kaijon Henderson committed to them. So, like, I just think it's interesting because I know some people have, right? And I know when we go through a couple seasons ago, like when Phony Badge was here, and he was
Mhm.
he was like pouring through real life transfer portals rankings and all these things. I just think it's so interesting how some guys just kind of fly. And I'm one of them, right? I don't know what I'm doing still, but I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't look that deep into these things. But then I've talked to some guys, and they're like legit pouring through all the real life rosters and everything else, and trying to like project for the following real life season how that can benefit them in the game. I find that stuff interesting. I don't know if you guys have had conversations or know of anybody else that like goes to that level. Like what are your guys feeling on that? How people approach the draft? Like, are we more do guys more look just at the season right in front of them, or do you think guys are more future facing in their decision making?
I think it depends on what season you're in. So coming into the last draft of a version, I think you'll find more people are going to kind of do a little more research or at least look at, okay, this team was good this year. How many seniors do they have on the team? And then the transfer portal adds a all new layer. Like myself specifically, me staying at Boise, I've become a Boise fan inadvertently. I'm looking at their transfer portal like, all right, what are they doing out here? How
Yeah.
crappy are they going? Who's leading the team? How shitty is my defense going to be next year because of the portal and things of that nature? So you'll get people that'll look at that. I think it's more for keeping teams until you get to the last draft before the version. Once you get to that last draft before the version switch over, that's when everybody starts. I think you find more people trying to project who's
Yep.
going to be a good team, and especially as how wild the transfer portal is nowadays. I think a lot of folks are going to be interested in that, especially if you're looking for that sleeper G5 team, because so many of them will have a good season on a G5 team and then transfer into a P4 team. And then it's like, okay, well, that team's not going to be good next year unless they have someone waiting in the wings. So I think you'll find this a little more research than usual for this
I like that
upcoming
thought.
draft.
That's actually interesting too, because like some, I'll have to try to remember this, but I think we're still a little short. Obviously, we've only got two in real life years down. But if you go a couple of years ahead now to 27, 28 in real life, and we get 4 or 5, 6 more seasons under our belt, and some data, I would be curious to see the first two seasons of a version versus the last season of a version, just the
Mhm.
number of draft entrants. And to your point, like, is there numerical data that supports that more jockeying is happening to get a new team in the last draft of a version versus the first two? You might see guys a little bit more locked into where they already chose, trying to achieve this success with what they thought they could to begin with. I think that would
Right.
actually be really interesting to go back and look at.
I agree.
All right, moving on to our last topic, breaking down some of the results from last. I believe it was last week that Andy rolled out the poll about different proposals for rules, and getting feedback from the league and not just listening to whatever the text chat and the loudest voices are saying. So that's nice to be able to get some feedback, from a little bit of everybody, every demographic. Um, but to that point, I'm curious to know if there are any rules you guys personally feel strongly about, whether that's changing them or keeping the same, if there's specific parts of it that you think could use some tweaking, and just your overall thoughts on the poll results. And we can go ahead and start with Drew if you want.
Um, yeah, so Andy and I were actually talking a little offline about that too. To me, one of the most interesting things was how he brought to everybody's attention that the results, how do you want to put that? Like, there seemed to be a general consensus for almost all of them. I think that I don't remember specifically, he'd be able to tell me better, but I don't think either any of those were like really split 50-50. It looked like there was a pretty good group consensus on most of them. And then when he was kind of pouring more through the specific user answers, that the most interesting thing to me was that I had expected you might see a much differing opinion for the top people in the league versus some of us towards the bottom. But it seemed as if the group sentiment was pretty intact throughout. So I know that there's a ton of debate in the chat about the rules, and it's obviously healthy. But I think that that kind of shows that the debate about the rules in the chat is more about the nuances of them rather than the rules overall. And I think that it does help to reinforce that by and large, we have a good rule set. Personally, I do think maybe the freebie fourth down should be looked at, not modified, right? I don't think that we need to totally change our fourth down rule per se, but I think that maybe there were enough examples of like illogical down and distances from our own side of the field, given the game situation, to where it's people were maybe cheesing that a little bit. I don't know. Again, I don't want to project there, but if I had to pick one, I think that's really it. Um, again, and Andy's running the NIT with stock books and with stunts. I'll just come out and say it. I'm not one that puts in a ton of time. I put in time to learning the game, but having done stock books all this time, I've not put time into like homing team books and finding. I'm just not a stock book guy. I'll just be honest with you. But I will be interested to see where the stunt thing lands, just because obviously of the discussion about offense in this game. So overall, I was pleased with those results. I'm glad Andy did that. I'm super glad that he got like 80 some participants. That's awesome, right? That actually gives you a real idea of the group's opinion, not 20, 25 people, too small of a data set. So I think it was great that he did it. The results are nice. And let's talk about the freebie fourth down if we can, boys.
Andy is the one who made the poll. I'm curious, to know your thoughts about everything.
Um, I kind of talked to Drew among others. Like one of the big things that I wasn't even necessarily trying to get like the actual answers. It was NTX's rule proposal thing. Kind of made me think about it. Like certain rules, like is is it only the good players that want it? Because it seemed like almost like not that Jiggy was the only good player in there, but like it seemed like it was like a lot of not Jiggy level people arguing against Jiggy for a rule. And I was like curious, if I could go back and Elo isn't perfect, and that's like kind of like the only thing I had to base it off of. But and I was kind of like looking at it that way in terms of do only high end Elo players want the free pass and all that jazz. But in terms of the results, the outside the numbers throw being banned was literally like 50-50. Free pass, there was more against it, and then another one between free pass and the 35-point rule. I know a lot of people went against, but it was like I'm not fully against it. It's like I would like a tweak of it, like the 35-point rule. A bunch of people DM'd me and said like, I like the rule, but I think it should be 42 or 41 or whatever the number is. And I was like, technically, as it's written, that means you're against the rule. So we have 23 people who were against it, 23% who were against it, quote unquote, but that might really be like 15% in terms of like fully against it. The free pass, maybe it's because I was on the Mac, but I didn't notice too many times that it happened where it was like an issue. Like maybe if you want to say free pass on your side of the field, if it's under like 4th and 2, like the ones that always kill me are you're at your 48-yard line, it's 4th and inches, and you can't go for it because you're 2 yards now alongside of midfield. On our rule set, the old way didn't let you do it. Hold on one second. I started checking your desk the other day. It said void on that book. Did you void it or are you going to void it? Okay. Sorry, I'm still at the office. See, people popped in, but yeah, like for me, and then the big one that I want, I would like to have stunts. I'm not a great defensive player anyway, and a lot of people aren't. Look, we were just talking about the CFP games. One was 63-60 and other crazy scores like that. The stunts do work. I have stunts in other leagues, like stunts do work, but guess what? They're supposed to work. Just like in real life, you stunt because they work. You know what I mean? Like it's like we don't ban streaks because a streak works against press coverage. You just throw it and it works. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. We throw for 400 or 500 yards a game over and over and over again. If you have 6 plays a game where the defensive lineman gets in there half a second quicker, and maybe you think twice about throwing 45 times. Maybe you run the ball a little bit more. There's definitely ways to have them be in there without it being cheese, I guess you could say. The biggest issues with the stunts and like in terms of the glitchy ways or whatever you've seen online are involving things that we can't do in the NDL, which is creeping your linebacker up to like the line of scrimmage. We can't bring our linebacker on top of the defensive tackle and then mess up the blocking and then do that kind of thing. So I would definitely be in favor of stunts. Everything else, like I didn't really have a hard and fast like pound the table kind of thing for it. But stunts would be one thing I would really like to see come in personally.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
in the same boat. I
Yeah.
had
Oh, go ahead, Rocky.
I was gonna say I think I voted against the 35-point rule. I don't remember. I haven't looked at the results, Andy. I know you reached out to me, but I'm in that camp of 42 would be good. Maybe 35 is too little. With
One that I always forgot is with the 35-point rule. Like I've mentioned this before, people. So we have the turn 2 clock on at 28, and like to get the game going. But then once you get under 28, you have to turn it off. I've always said if you get to 28, just leave it on. That's your benefit. Of you got up by 28 points, you can leave it on all game, get the game over with, because you can't try to score. Theoretically, can't try to score more points. Your benefit is just to try to get the game over with quicker.
right.
If you want to keep it at 35, because whenever I've been in that 28-point range, and it's like I can't really do anything because I'm worried about I can't throw the ball on a 3rd and 8 because I'm worried about they might get mad that I threw the ball up 28 points. So I just run the ball 3 and out, and they score. All of a sudden, 21 points in the late 3rd quarter isn't all that insurmountable,
Right.
kind of thing. But yeah,
Completely agree. Yeah, I'm with you on the stunts thing. I don't I was under the impression that they weren't as broken as they were when the game first released. So hopefully the data supports that. I think stunts should be in there. And I mean, like with anything we do, should be used in moderation. Um, that's my thought. I guess that's probably one I probably feel the most strongly about. Fourth down thing, the freebie one never really came up for me in any of my games. If it even happened, I probably didn't notice it, truth be told. I just expect everybody to go for it on 4th and 3 or less anyway. Because I can't stop anybody because I can't use stunts. So that's my logic. But yeah, everything else I think is fairly solid. I know it's just I don't like to get into rule discourse every time. Like every time there was an argument in the live chat with rules, I just go in, I put in my little Grandpa Simpson gif and just walk in and walk out. I'm like, that's enough of that. I don't even want to deal with it. So, and it's funny when I play newer people and they get all paranoid. They're like, hey, they'll pause the game. They're like, hey, are you cool with this? Da-da-da-da. I'm like, no, I'm one of the chillest people in the NDL about rules. Unless you're doing something painfully obvious, I'm
Mhm.
not going to freak out about it. So I don't tend to get involved in these rule conversations unless you're banning like I tend to care more about formation bans or like the stunt ban, things like that. But all these AI exploits and whatnot, I don't pay enough attention to notice these things like that route stemming one. Once I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's super broken. That should be banned. But I wasn't going to argue it by any stretch.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think regardless of the results of the poll or what changes might be made in the future, I'm still going to play the game and follow whatever rules there are cuz I'm just here for the community over anything else. I don't need to be super stickler over you have to do XYZ or I'm going to dock you on coach report or something. That being said, obviously there are certain rules that I do have certain stances on. It's been touched on. I'm not a huge fan of the stunts ban. I feel like the game is already relatively lopsided in favor of offense and scoring. Um, and to your guys' point, I I want to say that most of the stunts have been kind of reprogrammed so they're not completely broken. I think really the only one that was ever abused in any regard from the start was the Texas 4-man stunt. And obviously, I think that kind of was coupled with nano blitzing to really break the computer. So I don't think that applies too much to us because you can't bring your linebacker down like that to nano blitz. So I think stunts are okay. I don't think that particular situation should mean every stunt gets banned outright. I know it's probably hard to facilitate figuring out what kind of stunt somebody did on a certain play, um, but I'm too lax to care about that particular scenario. Um, let's see, what are some other rules? Uh, I don't know.
Throwing
Trying to
outside the numbers was one that I had on
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
That
that's
one
kind
was
of fair. I I'm just relatively lax as a Chicago Bears fan. I've seen a lot of bullshit that they would have gotten docked on, thrown outside the numbers with Caleb at the sideline, going for it in ridiculous situations. So I'm no stranger to these kinds of scenarios, and I think honestly, in a way, it's conditioned me to be like, yeah, that'll happen sometimes. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I can't believe you would do that to my defense and bait me in this way or like XYZ. Um, the game is the game. As long as you're not deliberately trying to completely break my O line's like CPU logic to get immediate sacks on me, or going for it on fourth and I don't know, fourth and long at your own 25 or some crap, it's not a huge deal for me. And I'm probably in the vast minority, but I'm not really against calling hot routes or stemming routes. Do quarterbacks in real life call hot routes or stem routes all the time? No. But at the same time, real life offenses are a lot more complex than what can be called by default on our play screen in the game. And quarterbacks are going to be doing different things in real life. They may have more control and flexibility and fluidity over the offense under some schemes and coaches than others. I think that complexity gets kind of mirrored by our ability to hot route, to audible, to stem, and find holes in the defense's coverage, especially if you're dealing with smaller playbooks or stock books. Because from what I understand, a lot of offenses will operate based on route options that depend on what the offense is seeing in coverage, and from there they can adjust accordingly. So how I see hot routing and stemming is kind of just a call to that, looking at what the coverage is giving you, deciding on what route combos will work best from there. Obviously, you could say that you have coaches that won't use that freedom honestly, where they will purposefully try to find ways to cheese the CPU by having uber goofy stemmed routes. I think CFB, the devs have actually addressed it. Because I remember at the very beginning of the season, something I saw online a lot is you could stem a corner route down to be like a pretty much a 0 yard break. So they break out of the route immediately and they're just gone. But they fixed that around mid-season to where you can't stem a corner route, I believe, below 3-ish yards. And that helped out a lot with not breaking the hell out of the CPU. So I think part of it is if you use it honestly and you're not deliberately trying to break the game, I think they still have their place in the game and in the league. And if you notice something that's a little bit fishy, that's what punishing coaches for rule breaking or submitting coach reports for is for. And personally, outside of that one stemming issue that kind of got patched out midway, I've never found a specific stem or hot route so broken that no adjustments or different types of coverage calls can like stop it. Um, that's just my 2 cents on a rule that I feel like most people are kind of against allowing, but I just thought it would be good discourse to provide the other side of the argument. So, but yeah, that is all of our topics for today. I want to thank all of you for joining us and giving me your 2 cents in the time of day, especially during the workday while you're at the office. I appreciate that level of commitment. Just don't get in trouble while you're doing it. um, and to all our listeners and viewers of the live stream, I appreciate you taking your time of day to listen to us rant and ramble about the league for an hour. And I look forward to seeing you all right when the draft begins for season 35.
Oh, yeah. Always a pleasure.
See ya.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Take care, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.